Grade 8, quiz number 7. Directions. Read the passage and answer the questions that follow. 1984. An excerpt from 1984 by George Orwell. George Orwell wrote the futuristic novel 1984 in 1949. Here, the main character, Winston Smith, lives in Oceania, a place where the government, the party, is very powerful. Paragraph 1. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victoria Mansions, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering along with him. The hallway smelt of boiled cabbage and old rag mats. At one end of it, a colored poster, too large for indoor display, had been tacked to the wall. It depicted simply an enormous face, more than a meter wide. The face of a man of about 45 with heavy black mustache and ruggedy, handsome features. Winston made for the stairs. It was no use trying the lift. Even at the best of times, it was off during daylight hours. It was part of the economy drive in preparation for Hate Week. The flat was 7 flights up, and Winston, who was 39, had been a varicose ulcer above his right ankle, went slowly, resting several times on the way. On each landing, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures where it feels like the eyes follow you when you move. Big Brother is watching you. The caption beneath it ran. Paragraph 3. Inside the flat, a fruity voice was reading out a list of figures which had something to do with the production of pig iron. The voice came from a metal plaque that looked like a dulled mirror, which formed part of the surface of the right-hand wall. Winston turned a switch, and the voice sank somewhat, though the words were still distinguishable. The instrument, the television it was called, could be dimmed, but there was no way of shutting it off completely. He moved over to the window, a smallish, frail figure, the meagerness of his body merely emphasized by the blue overalls, which were the uniform of the party. His hair was fair, his face naturally sanguine, his skin roughed by coarse soap and blunt razor blades, and the cold of the winter had just ended. Paragraph 4. Outside, even through the shut window pane, the world looked cold. Down in the street, the wind was whirling dust and torn paper into spirals, and though the sun was shining and the sky a harsh blue, there seemed to be no color in anything except the posters that were plastered everywhere. The black, mustachioed face gazed down from every commanding corner. There was one of the house front immediately opposite. Big Brother is watching you, the caption said, while the dark eyes looked deep into Winston's own. Down at street level, another poster torn at one corner flapped restlessly in the wind, alternately covering and uncovering the single word, INGSOC. In the far distance, a helicopter skimmed down between the roofs, hovering for an instant like a blue bottle, and darted away again with a curving flight. It was the police patrol snooping into people's windows. The patrol did not matter, however, only the thought police mattered. Paragraph 5. Behind Winston's back, the voice from the telescreen was still babbling away about pig iron and the overfulfillment of the 9th three-year plan. The telescreen received and transmitted simultaneously. Any sound that Winston made above the level of a very low whisper would be picked up by it. Moreover, so long as he remained within the field of vision which the metal plaque commanded, he could be seen as well heard. There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment, how often, or on what system the thought police plugged in on any individual wire was guesswork. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody all the time, but at any rate, they could plug in your wire whenever they wanted to. You had to did live, from habit that became instinct, in the assumption that every sound you made was overheard, and except in darkness, every movement scrutinized. 1. The lift is another word for elevator. 2. Varicose ulcer is a wound caused by poor blood flow in the legs. 3. The flat is another word for apartment D. Sanguine, looking positive even in a bad situation. Number 1. In what way is the information about Winston in paragraph 3 important to the development of the central idea of the excerpt? A. It demonstrates that Winston yearns for a better life. B. It proves that Winston attempts to distinguish himself from other citizens. C. It hints at the extent of the effects that Big Brother has on Winston's life and appearance. D. It explains the reasoning behind Winston's opinions of Big Brother. 2. What is the intended contrast between Winston's viewpoint and that of the reader? A. Winston's viewpoint is apparent acceptance of the conditions of his life, but the reader sees the harshness of his situation. B. Winston's viewpoint is eager curiosity about the conditions of his life, but the reader sees that his situation is fairly typical. C. Winston's viewpoint is minor annoyance about the conditions of his life, but the reader sees that his situation is actually bearable. D. Winston's viewpoint is enthusiastic support for the conditions of his life, but the reader sees the hopelessness of the situation. 3. How does the word restlessly in paragraph 4 most strongly impact the meaning and tone of the excerpt? A. The word supports a fanciful tone by giving an inanimate object a sense of being. B. The word supports a respectful tone by focusing on the attention the thought police paid to small details. C. This word supports a judgmental tone by showing that the main character criticizes anything negative around him. D. The word supports an oppressive tone by showing that even objects in the character's surroundings seem unsettled. 4. Reread the following sentence from paragraph 4. The patrols did not matter, however. Only the thought police mattered. According to the details in the excerpt, why is this statement true? A. People are already accustomed to helicopters flying near their windows, but the idea of thought police is recent and unfamiliar. B. People are pleased to have helicopter patrols keeping everyone safe, but they don't see how the thought police keep them safe. C. People can see when the patrols are snooping, but cannot ever know exactly what the thought police are snooping. D. People know that the helicopters appear only in a few winter months, but the thought police are active most of the year. 5. Which sentence from the excerpt is the best evidence for the claim that the government is invading Winston's privacy? A. Winston turned a switch and the voice sank somewhat, though the words were still distinguishable in paragraph 3. B. Outside, even though the shut window pane, the world looked cold, paragraph 4. C. In the far distance, a helicopter skimmed down between the roofs, hovered for an instant like a blue bottle, and darted away again with a curved flight, paragraph 4. D. Any sound that Winston made above a level of a very low whisper would be picked up by it. Moreover, so long as he remained within the field of vision, which the metal plaque commanded, he could be seen as well as heard, paragraph 5. 6. What is the central idea of this excerpt? How does the setting support the central idea? Use 2 details from the story to support your response.